Alright, so a lot of you have been reaching out about the most recent update for Skyrim, which has once again caused quite the stir in the mod community, as with every update it is broken SKSE 64 and mods that require it. That said, this update in particular was desperately needed after Bethesda caused some game-breaking issues with the one that came before it. So it's not all bad news here, there's actually some pretty exciting things to discuss in this video, so without further ado, let's roll the intro. Alright, so I think we should probably start off with what this patch, or rather hotfix, was actually for, as I know the immediate reaction to these small patches is going to be frustration due to the repercussions that they have on mods, and that's totally understandable. That said, while the previous 1.6.629 patch prior to this hotfix was mostly bad, and I'm talking about Anniversary Edition kind of bad for PC modding, this hotfix that just happened was done to resolve a game-breaking issue with mods for both PC and console. So it was mandatory, and Bethesda even warned that it was coming. So this hotfix resolved an issue preventing some mods from properly loading, an issue causing the player's creation credit balance to display incorrectly after immediately purchasing credits, except on Steam, an issue from preventing players from purchasing the pet Nixhound in some non-English languages, and an issue preventing players from purchasing horse armor in some non-English languages as well. Now, the biggest one here obviously is resolved an issue preventing some mods from properly loading, which is an issue that affected both PC and console. So this hotfix was necessary, and all parties were informed that this hotfix was on the way. So what is the state of mods now that the hotfix has been out, and what do you need to look out for when updating your mods to work with this recent hotfix? Well, for console players, you should be fine. But for PC, I think I first need to address that a lot of very popular and often widely required mods still have yet to be updated for the new patches, and might not be for quite some time, as some haven't even seen updates since 2021. So if you're wanting to access a wider range of mods right now, you won't want to be on this update at the time of this video, as these two patches have essentially put us back to the state that we were at following the initial release of the Anniversary Edition. That said, some of you might still be interested in being on this update and want to know what has been updated for this latest version. So SKSE 64 has received its 2.2.1 update, which not only added support for Skyrim 1.6.640, that being the latest hotfix, but also fixed a crash when sheathing a right-handed weapon, which was caused by a missing address and reported by Slavic Potato. Address Library by Met321 has been updated to support up to build 1.6.659, which if you don't recognize that build version, that's because it's new and related to a new version of the game, which we'll be discussing later on in this video, as it does complicate things a bit more when it comes to modding the game. Just know that this version will still work with your latest Steam copy, as addressed by the mod author themselves. Skyrim Together has also been updated to fully support the latest version, so you can play with others in Skyrim multiplayer again. Beyond that, you'll also need to update SKSE plugin mods that haven't yet been updated following either of the last two patches, as starting with 1.6.629 and beyond, a line of code was changed in the game, requiring all SKSE plugins to be updated manually to support the latest patches. And while this isn't as bad as the launch of the Anniversary Edition, using an entirely new version of Visual Studio, it will require manual work to get each SKSE plugin up and running again. So as I mentioned earlier, a lot of mods have yet to be updated for this, and some don't plan on updating, at least as of right now. So if you're wanting to check if your specific SKSE plugin is supported, I've left a reference table in the description that covers a wider range of SKSE mods and which versions they're compatible with. And while this isn't an exhaustive list by any means, it's a great starting point to get your mods sorted and keeping track of when it's safer to update. And if you're not sure on which of your mods are SKSE plugins, all you have to do now is launch the game, as SKSE 64 will automatically block and warn you of any mods that are not updated for the latest versions. So you'll get a long list of all the things that need updates, whether they have one available or not. Again, just to clarify, the updates that some SKSE plugins have to make isn't a small task and will take some time, so how you go about this is really up to you and what mods you desperately need. Now, as always, if you're not wanting to use this update and happen to get caught by Steam auto updates, you can use the downgrade patcher by Helgari, as I've covered how to do so in a previous video. Keep in mind you'll only want to do this if you already have a mod list that you don't plan on touching that is compatible with the build you're downgrading to, as mods moving forward won't be consistently backwards compatible due to the code change made in the game. So with that said, if you're wanting to downgrade to the SE build, which I only suggest for those of you that have an SE mod list already, then you would use the main file to downgrade from the latest version of the game to 1.5.97, in which you'd also use the SE build of SKSE 64 and all SKSE mods. And if you're only wanting to downgrade to the build before these last two patches, that being 1.6.353, you'd want to go to the old files and find the full patcher 1.6.640 to 1.6.353, and ensure you're using the correct version of SKSE 64 and SKSE plugins to work on that build. Again, downgrading is complicated if you're not someone who already has an outdated mod list to support the version, as the change Bethesda made to the game code will make modding a downgraded game a much more difficult time as more mods start to get updated. And that brings us to a very unexpected and truly insane update for Skyrim modding and the game in general. As Skyrim Special Edition and Anniversary Edition, again, same game, just with or without the Creation Club DLC, is now available DRM free on GOG.com. GOG has been working with Nexus mods and other modders to ensure that the build is as modding friendly as possible, and remember that GOG is a CD Projekt company, and boy are things looking good. First off, it's DRM free, as with all games offered on GOG, so no checks or even a launcher required to download your game, meaning you can even install the game itself without the GOG launcher. They've also removed the Creation Club and Bethesda.net menus, meaning that you cannot access these services in-game, but you can still get all the Creation Club content by purchasing the Anniversary Edition from GOG, making it a lot less intrusive to PC users who practically never use either of these menus, which often cause more headache than anything. And what I think people are going to love the most about this is that you can roll back game versions or even turn off updates entirely using the GOG Galaxy app. So no more losing your mind when Skyrim gets updated and you either have to wait for SKSE mod updates or deal with the painful process of downgrading, which is fantastic news for the average mod user. Now, it should be noted that Bethesda can technically still demand a specific version to be removed, but GOG says this is unlikely unless there are major issues with said build. And to make it a little bit easier for people to jump into the GOG version, they're also running a launch sale for the next 2 weeks, so the full anniversary bundle of Skyrim Special Edition is $24.99 US and $49.99 not on sale. So if you're wanting to buy Skyrim for the 20th time, you can do so. Of course, with this being a different game build, there will inevitably be a few questions and issues that come up. First off, you should know that Vortex now does indeed support the GOG version, and you'll be able to manage your mods, plugins, and save games as expected. SKSE 64 is also supported with a new entirely separate forked build titled Current GOG Anniversary Edition Build 2.2.2, game version 1.6.659. This was done partially thanks to GOG giving the SKSE team early access to the build to ensure it was available shortly after release. As for whether all mods will be compatible with this version, any non-SKSE mods will work correctly, with the only exception being some UI mods that affect menus, and this is due to the removal of the Bethesda.net and Creation Club options. As for SKSE 64 mods, as long as they've been updated to support one of the last two patches, and you have both the GOG supported build of SKSE 64 and address library, they should work as intended, but only time will tell. You can also transfer your saves by moving them to the separate Skyrim Special Edition GOG folder in My Documents, but of course the same rules for mods apply, so it's suggested not to do this mid-playthrough unless all of your mods are supported on the GOG build and you want to risk something going wrong. And two other things that should be noted is that you cannot transfer Creation Club content as the service isn't linked to the GOG version, but again, all of the Creation Club content is available through the Anniversary upgrade, and for mod authors, it should be noted that the Creation Kit is only available on Steam, which isn't compatible with the GOG version of the game. That said, any mods created using it will still work on the GOG version as expected. So you'll still need the Steam version to create mods unless you use a hacky workaround by transferring the Steam API.dll file to the GOG version. But whether that will have any unforeseen repercussions is the question. Now, the only notable technical differences is the game version, which is 1.6.659 instead of 1.6.640, and the directories for game settings, save games, and load order data are in GOG tagged folders to differentiate them from the Steam and Xbox versions. Otherwise, it would overwrite and conflict with existing files. Now, I love all the features being brought with the GOG release. These are things I wish were possible with the Steam and PC Game Pass versions of the game, and I think this release will be an overall net positive for the community. But there is one major repercussion we do need to discuss, and that is the further fracturing of the mod community that is being caused by the combination of re-releases and forked build releases, which is causing mod authors to abandon the community entirely, as they just can't keep up with supporting this over 10-year-old game with all the changes that Bethesda is making. If you go on the Nexus and even check out some of the most heavily required or most popular mods for the game that use SKSE, for example, they are not compatible and haven't been updated since 2021 or before. The constant re-releases and new builds for the game is resulting in a loss of mods, which is unfortunate to see. So I am a little mixed with all of this. That said, as I mentioned before, I do think this release is a net positive for the game and community and will benefit a lot of people moving forward. But we could see some further unexpected consequences of having yet another build version for the game. So my suggestion is to hold off on this GOG release unless you're starting your mod list from scratch, in which case, have at it, as this will make things, hopefully, a lot easier moving forward, and I'll probably be diving into this build myself to see how it goes. Now, another really exciting bit of Skyrim mod news, the team behind Skyrim Extended Cut, which is an upcoming mod that overhauls the game's main storyline, adds new quests, challenges, and characters, and a mod a lot of people thought was dead, is very much alive, as the team behind the mod have announced that they're bringing a standalone overhaul of the Saints and Seducers Creation Club content, which will be adding a new world space, fully voiced questline, and much more. This was revealed with a YouTube premiere yesterday morning, and the trailer looks stellar. It's produced by Heavy Burns and narrated by the one and only Shirley Curry, aka Skyrim Grandma. This standalone mod, titled Skyrim Extended Cut Saints and Seducers, will be coming to Skyrim for both the PC and Xbox on November 11th of this year. So, pretty soon. And they're considering this a pre-release for the full Extended Cut mod, which will be for the main game itself and is expected sometime in 2023. This is a mod I am quite looking forward to, so if you want to check out the trailer for this standalone overhaul, you can find it linked in the description. And let's end off this video with some more insane news, but not insane in a good way, as we have gotten some more typical Bethesda behavior that is stirring up a little bit of drama. And if this happens to be forced by Nintendo, I'll take all of this back. But it doesn't seem to be that way. What am I talking about? Well, Skyrim Anniversary Edition is now available on the Nintendo Switch for a whopping $70 US. An over 10-year-old game that is only $49.99 on PC and just released on GOG for $29.99 on sale, with PC being the most feature-complete platform. So I don't know what Bethesda is smoking when it comes to re-releasing it for $70 US on the Switch, especially with it being the least capable hardware. It genuinely feels like they're just price gouging the Switch because they know that they can, with Switch owners being desperate for more games. And I know this isn't very fitting with the typical coverage in these kinds of videos, considering I'm a PC-focused modding channel, but I just found it so outrageous that I had to share it. So I'd love to know your thoughts on that and everything else discussed in this video. And while that's it for this video, I do have a few more exciting things for you to check out. The first of which is my new Modding Tutorials 2022 playlist. It'll be getting rapidly updated over the coming weeks, as well as my 5 mods to overhaul Cyberpunk 2077 video, which you all have been giving a lot of love. But that's it for this video. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, this is Apoqsi, signing off.